Happy Wednesday, everyone. Mr. Dink, it is now 9:31. Whenever you're ready to start, just read the preamble.
Mr. Dank, you're muted.
Now?
Now we can hear you, but we can't see you.
In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declaration, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raised hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair or facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Board of Building Standards and Building Appeals is now in session. Call the roll, please. Madam Secretary?
You're muted, Ms. Davis. There you go.
Maschke,
Here.
Bradley,
Here.
Dink,
Here.
and Gallagher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, may it please the board, this is Patricia McGinty Aston for the City of Cleveland. The City of Cleveland will still object to the use of the live chat, and if someone can independently verify it is being live streamed and where it's being live streamed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It's being live streamed on YouTube.
We will proceed. First docket, A 37719, 2636 North Moreland Boulevard.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is interior and exterior maintenance, issued on December 11, 2019. Appeal statement received December 30th, 2019, requesting for time. Present for the hearing. Is anyone from HAX 2 LLC present? We're going to have testimony from Tom Vanover from the Department of Building and Housing.
Do we wish to hear the docket at this time? This is their second chance, is it not?
That is correct, Mr.
I suggest we rehear the docket and hear from the city of Cleveland and make a motion. So, present for the docket is Tom Vanover. Madam Secretary, who is present?
Building and Housing, Tom Vanover.
Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Preliminarily, Mr. Chairman, Patricia McGinty asking for the city of Cleveland to Ms. Davis, just so that we have it clear, Mr. Chairman, that you can proceed. If I may preliminarily ask about service, Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Davis, did notice of today's public hearing get returned for any reason whatsoever to the board secretary, to the appellant?
Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Ashton, no mail has been returned, and I have not heard anything from the appellant.
Thank you. No emails or no other calls. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. According to Ms. Davis's testimony, the board has properly notified the appellant, HATS 2 LLC, for this board's WebEx hearing. It appears this notice has not been returned to the board, so you do have the authority to proceed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Vanover, your comments?
So, Mr. Chairman, this was a continuation of several cases that we heard 2 weeks ago.
Your microphone isn't working properly.
Is that better?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Chairman, this is a continuation of cases, several cases that we heard 2 weeks ago. The appellant was not present for those either. This is a complex of buildings that was inspected out of our code enforcement rental inspection unit. And as you can see on today's docket, there's several cases. This is one of the buildings that consists of, I believe we actually have, there's slides to go with this. We could go to the next slide.
Are the buildings contiguous? Should we open the other 3 dockets at this time?
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Davis had her hand raised.
I just want to clarify, the buildings that was on 2 weeks of dockets, these are not the same addresses or the same buildings, or these are different structures owned by the same owners. And we only have pictures for the Ludlow. I didn't have pictures for the properties located on North and South Moreland. Just for the record.
Okay, so yeah, Mr. Chairman, that is correct. These are additional addresses, but it's from the same complex. It's one large complex, and the Ludlow property has interior, exterior violations, and the ones on North and South Moreland, I believe, are lead violations. So this is so we've got there's no interior or exterior photos because they're lead violations. So we would ask, I mean, this is a large complex. It's occupied. People live here. It's in because of its size and its deferred maintenance. It's in various stages of disrepair, and we would ask that you remand it back to the Department of Building and Housing for us to.
Are these the 4-story apartment buildings with maybe a garden apartment? Yes, they're purely residential buildings with different problems, and we're not getting any participation from the appellants. Is there any further comments you wish to make on this? Because remanding seems obviously the best choice to have.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Davis has her hand raised.
Ms. Davis?
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear for my court reporter, we're hearing dockets altogether, the following dockets, A-37719, 37819, 37919, 38019, and 38119 at this time. Just need it clear for the court reporter.
37719. And we did not open the other dockets, but we can, I suggest since we've only opened this docket, we hear this and then I'll open the other three and we'll just make the motion on the other three. Is that legally a reasonable solution? Ms. Aston, you have a comment on that maybe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will defer to this board's lawyer. However, I do believe one of them has a separate named party of those other dockets. I don't see anything wrong as long as you call them separately and then swear everybody in and we go through the preliminaries. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay, a motion is in order to remand the property at 2636 North Moreland Boulevard to the Division of Building and Housing for supervision and any further action. Motion so in order.
So move.
Motion,
Second.
Mr. Bradley. May I hear the second?
Second.
Mr. Gallagher? Call the roll, please.
Maschke,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Dink, I didn't hear your motion, Mr. Dink.
Oh, yes.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Next dockets are dockets A 37819, A 38019, and A 38119. We'll hold the real green for later. Open the dockets, please. I'll give you the addresses. 2805 Ludlow Road, 2870 South Moreland Boulevard. I'm sorry, that's not going to be introduced because it's a different owner. 2630 North Moreland Boulevard and 2635 North Moreland Boulevard. Who is present for that docket, Madam Secretary? Ms. Davis?
no one has reached out from Hacks LLC to participate in today's hearing. No mail has been returned. So we do not have an appellant this morning.
So we'll hear from Mr. Vanover. Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay. And comments on these would be similar to the first hats?
They would, Mr. Chairman. If you bear with me for just a second. Ms. Davis, we sent the lead report for this property earlier this week in a PDF for the presentation, but it doesn't look like, did it make it into the into this presentation?
I can answer that question. It did not, because it's only stated as interior and exterior maintenance in our agenda.
All right. So yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is again, this property is it has lead violations. So the lead report shows that there's actually there's several violations on this.
Your microphone isn't working very well.
Okay, I don't know which one they actually appealed. We could not gain access, obviously, to the interior of these properties because we can't get a hold of the owner. This property includes lead violations, and we've there's a violation notice as well. So there are active lead hazards in the property. We would ask, I'm speaking specifically of the property.
You have to speak more directly. There's something going on that doesn't get your microphone to us very well.
Okay.
There. That was a good okay. Are the other violations still violations that if we remand the property for these violations, does that serve its purpose, or would you want the lead to come up as a separate issue at a later time? I don't think we're going to get anywhere with these.
Mr. Chairman, we ask that you remand them all to the Department of Building and Housing for us to continue through our remedy to try and get these properties solved. Obviously, the homeowner is not responding to our calls, and they're not responding to the communications for the appeal to attend. So we ask that you deny any more time, and with the understanding it's already been 6 months or more, and that you remand it back to the department.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Davis had her hand raised.
Ms. Davis.
For the record, to answer Mr. Vanover's questions, the appellant only submitted to the board the interior and exterior maintenance violations, which some entail smoke detectors were missing, some cracking or missing tile in areas, bathrooms, and hallway debris. I don't have anything in regards to their wanting to appeal the lead violations.
Noted. A motion is in order to remand the properties, docket A378, docket A380, and docket A381 to the Division of Building and Housing for supervision and any further action, denying them any additional time. Motion so in order.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Maskey.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bradley. Call the roll, please.
Maskey,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Dink,
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Next docket, A379, 2870 South Moreland Boulevard.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is elevator, issued on December 19, 2019. Appeal statement received December 30th, 2019. Appellant was properly notified. No communications have been held with the appellant. Dave currently is not present for the hearing. Present for the hearing, Building and Housing, Tom Vanover.
Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Preliminarily, Mr. Chairman, Patricia McGinty Aston for the City of Cleveland. To Ms. Davis, was the mail of today's notice of today's hearing returned to the board for whatever reason?
No, no mail has been returned.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. So, Mr. Chairman, you do have the ability to proceed. The appellant has been properly notified and has not notified the board or made an appearance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vanover, the notice of violation cites an elevator. Could you describe that to us so we know what we're talking about?
Chairman, preliminarily, this was Real Green Management. Real Green Management was the contact person for the Property Management Association. It is my understanding that since they have a new property management company or none, but Real Green Management, I don't believe is any longer the managing company. This property is also owned by Hatch. I'm not sure which of the Hatch corporations it is, but it is the same group of owners. And this building is in that same group of buildings in the complex.
Okay.
There are several violations in the elevator surrounding the machine room. They are delinquent on their 5-year no-load test. They have, I have photographs that may be difficult to see because we weren't able to get them uploaded properly. But basically, there's doors that swing the wrong way, doors that are locked, elevators that they've removed the handrails from, series of other violations that are hazards Debris and junk and old pieces, parts are left in the machine room, and just overall hazards that affect the safe operation of the elevator. We received complaints, several complaints throughout the year in this complex regarding elevators not working and elevators being down.
Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Vanover, has it been tagged or is it still in operation? And then if you could just submit those photographs physically to Ms. Davis so that they are physically in the file, even though they were not electronically submitted. Thank you. But has it been tagged or is it still in operation?
It has not been tagged.
So it can be assumed in operation. And the response by the owner or pseudo owner can be anticipated as the same as on the other dockets. A motion is in order to deny any additional time and to remand the property at 2870 South Moreland Boulevard to the Division Building Housing for supervision and any required further action. Motion so in order.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Bradley,
Second.
second by Mr. Gallagher. Call the roll, please.
Maskey,
Here, yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Dink,
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Next docket, A38418, 2441 East 71st Street. Introduce the thank you. Go ahead. Proceed.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is condemnation of the main structure issued November 22nd, 2019. Appeals a statement received December 22nd, 2019, requesting for time. Anyone from the Foundry Project present for today's hearing?
Boy.
Ms. Davis, nobody has their hand raised?
You said nobody has a hand raised?
Correct, ma'am?
Are they?
Oh, excuse me, Ms. Davis, we have the gentleman with username PROAC with his hand raised.
Okay.
You are muted, sir.
Who else? Then if Mr. Proack is part of is the owner, or do we determine that now? May we have the list of people giving testimony, Madam Secretary, Ms. Davis? Davis?
Give me 1 second. I did have email communications with them and they said they will be here this morning. Let me check my email to make sure they're not having any difficulties.
Mr. Chairman, this is Greg Ernst with AODK Architecture.
Yes.
Welcome to WebEx. Enter your access code or meeting number.
And I believe that would be Mr. Shorey trying
Enter
to get
your
on right
attendee
now.
ID number followed by pound.
Mr. Chairman, this is Patricia McGinty Aston. When you do get everybody on, and if you could have them announce themselves and spell their names for the court reporter, as well as to note there are 4 violation notices listed in this, buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4, all condemnations, all objected to the condemnation, so the city will have the first administrative burden. I will say that the appeal seems to state that the objection is based upon future development, so Mr. Vanover can handle that, but if you could have everyone clearly announce and spell their names for the court reporter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shorey now has audio. Thank you.
Where are we going with this? Wait, do we have these people identified and are they on a microphone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Shall I start?
Mr. Chairman, you have to swear, they have to be announced, spell their names, and then you swear them in, please. Thank you.
Will the gentleman that just spoke do that? And
Yes, yes. This is Mr. James Shorey, Shorey. I am the president and CEO of the Foundry Project, and I am the executive director of the Foundry Project Arts Incubator. On the call or on the WebEx are architect Greg Ernst, ERNST from AODK, and our CFO, Curtis Witchy, WITCHEY, also the Foundry Project.
And Mr. Vanover is speaking for the city, Ms. Davis?
That is correct.
Okay. Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
May we have the representative for the appellant state the situation that we're encountering?
Yes, sir, I will take that responsibility. Thank you very much for your attention and time this morning. As I said, I'm Jay Shorey, and let me just make a quick statement. The Foundry Project, the vision is to build a campus which incorporates profitable, sustainable businesses with technology incubators for arts and digital technologies. This particular building, the tower, is the historical centerpiece of the campus, and it is ideally suited for the purpose we have envisioned, which is to reimagine it as a functional, an excellent example of the historical manufacturing in Cleveland, and it is ideally suited to house the purposes that we've identified it for, which are the technology incubator, the arts incubator, as well as private businesses, which will help. The purpose of a sustainable campus, which is profitable, which is to have enough. We are balancing the profitable businesses on the site with non-for-profit. The profitable businesses will be, for example, a large aquaculture facility and new construction, which will produce anywhere. We have one design which produces 600,000 pounds a year of fresh fish. That'll be a very profitable enterprise, up to 3 million pounds a year. We have other profitable enterprises which we're in discussions with in other parts of the campus. The main purpose of the tower, which the tower has been, well, I'll get into that in a second. The tower is envisioned for technology incubation and arts incubation. As I said, both of those are formed. There's a technology incubator 501c3, and there's an arts incubation 501c3. We have been in discussions over the past 2 years with a number of different people regarding proceeding with development. It's no secret. We've had some incidents of violence which have contributed to people walking away. Clearly, the coronavirus has frozen people's interest, literally. And we also were in a grant to clean up the asbestos in the main building, and we were one of a number of participants in a grant, Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund grant, that was submitted to the US EPA. That was turned down this spring. We are hoping to work with NOACA, who is the sponsor of that application, to correct the deficiencies in the application, resubmit it, and hopefully get funding. That's federal funding, so there's prevailing wage requirements and local work requirements, and that's about a $500,000 grant. The building was transferred to a 501c3 in order to better position ourselves to take advantage of that grant. That was just the tower building. The remainder of the building remains in the Foundry Project ownership. I think, from the point of view of the committee, I would like to stress that the building is a valuable asset. Anybody we've taken through marvel at the structure, at the height, at the views. These are a part of Cleveland's heritage, which must be retained and redeveloped as part of our heritage. To tear this building down would be a complete loss of a great asset. I would like to point out that it will cost a substantial amount of money to tear it down, probably in excess of $1 million. And that would just be, that's a ridiculous, in my opinion, respectfully submitted, that would be an unsound choice and path to follow. The building is secure. We are very aggressive about keeping it secure, keeping people out of it. We routinely go through it to make sure there's no break-ins. We keep it cleaned up. We clean up all the trash around the area. We keep it mowed. We were supposed to launch one of our projects is North Coast Sheep. We were going to start it out with using sheep just to keep the grass under control at the site. We presented a vision to the city of using the sheep to control the grass at the 50-acre woodland cemetery. That remains a project that we're working to overcome some of the objections from some of the people in the city. That was strongly supported by Burton Bell Carr and by the councilwoman. So we think that, as well as Matt Gray from Sustainability. So we think that the vision that we're putting on the table will create a bright spot of redevelopment in a part of Cleveland that could really use it. And we do not think that vision will be made any more feasible in order to tear this building down. So again, I'd like to close. I would like to invite the architect who can just offer a few comments about the structure and his thoughts as to what the space could look like. We did submit the floor plans. It's an excellent floor plan to accommodate a futuristic, forward-looking layout. An integrated design. So that's exciting, and that's sort of where things stand right now. We just need more time in order to put this together. We need time to finish the Brownfields Revolving Loan Fund grant, get that resubmitted, get the building cleaned up. We're actively working on the north building. We have a plan that is coming together to launch that this year. The two metal buildings are essentially garages, and one of them is being considered as a studio site, and another it's really the garage for the tower. It's directly connected. So with that, I will suspend my comments for the moment and invite Greg Ernst to chime in and then take any questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Maschke has his hand raised.
Mr. Maschke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the appellant, your project sounds admirable, but it sounds like it's only going to proceed once your financing's in order. What is the timeline for that, and how much time do you actually need?
That's an excellent question. I have to be blunt. The coronavirus has literally made it very difficult to get people on site. The people that we're talking to, half of them aren't even in Cleveland. We were introduced to somebody that to give you an example, somebody that wants to grow these exotic mushrooms, which would be highly sought after by our local restaurants. Well, they're in Kansas City. They can't get here. The restaurants are hardly in a frame of mind to talk about expanding and incorporating these wonderful edibles.
I appreciate your comments and your forward thinking, but this building is a blight on the neighborhood, and we're all in the same boat with coronavirus, and we all need to figure out how to keep moving in our own ways. We're all affected. It's not one-sided, just you. I think if you can give me a time frame, you're going to force us to remand this to the city, and you're going to have to then work with the city to develop your plan. It doesn't stop you from developing your plan, but you're going to have to work closely with the city with their oversight if you do not have a set time frame. I don't think we can just give you 3 months because I know what's going to happen. You're going to come back before us. You're not going to hit your 3 months, and you're going to want 3 more months, and we're just going to keep kicking the can down the road. So I like the ideas that you're presenting, but I think you should work closely with the city. And if we remand it, you're just going to work with Mr. Vanover and his team to move forward.
Well, I'm, you know, we do work very closely with David Ebersol. He's been a part of our leadership team for the better part of 2 or 3, you know, since Tracy left. We work very closely with Jan Bain, Senior Economic Development over at the county, Pam Davis at NOACA. You know, our first is to go back and finish this, get this grant resubmitted so we can get the building cleaned up, and that will clean it up and board it up, everything. So it will no longer
Give me a time frame.
Sir, if I could get a response from NOACA, I would have an idea. I've been trying to get a hold of her since April to see about resubmitting our application. And so I'm happy to work with the city. I will absolutely, you know, agree to that. And that's fine. It's a collaborative effort, and I'm not trying to be cute or coy. Efforts like this.
We're not trying to be difficult either. We want you to succeed. The concern is that if we don't put a tight constraint on this, the other agencies are not going to take it as seriously either, and we're going to see you another 3 months or another 5 months, and it's just going to keep reappearing based on what we've experienced over the last decade of similar projects. So if you're okay with working with Mr. Vanover in the city, I think we should just remand it, and you can work closely with them, and we can move on.
That's fine with me.
May we have a comment from the city in regard? That's an excellent suggestion, and we're probably going to do our part. Does the city have any comment at this time regarding that, so that we see that they understand it or object to it? Mr. Vanover.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like, we've provided photos as well. I would like to make a couple of comments regarding the photos that we've provided from 6/30/2020. You'll see that the buildings are actually open. Well, no, back up, if you will.
You mean totally accessible?
Well,
the garages are open.
Yeah, so we've got the garages that are wide open, full of debris. You can see from this photograph, there's an opening into the tower. So, you know, and my question is, does the ownership group have any private funding, or is this all expected to be grants and philanthropy?
No, we have private funding as well.
So our concern is we don't want to tear this down. We don't want to spend $1 million of the people's, you know, of the citizens' money to tear this down, as you said. But, you know, there's other remedies. There is either repair it or demolish it. That's the order. The city doesn't want to have to take on the cost of tearing this down, nor do we, you know, I don't disagree that the building, that it would be a loss in the neighborhood. But as Mr. Mashpee said, this sounds like a plan, you know, for nothing until all these other pieces fall into place. And the reality is, this is sitting in the neighborhood, and this is an attractive nuisance as it sits right now, and it's dangerous. So I'd like to, you know, rebut the statement that the buildings are secure, because they're not. That's just not true. And the first priority is to make them clean, safe, secure, and graffiti-free, and this picture is none of those. So,
well,
I understand the waiting game while all of these pieces fall into place. I also understand the you know, the coronavirus and everything that's, you know, going on, but you know, the train keeps moving. I'm not real confident that this is ever going to get done. And I think that I would ask that it be more time be denied and remanded back to the department so that we can follow our administrative, all of our administrative processes, whether it be prosecution or demolition or any other, our remedies, and hopefully working with the appellant to get the plans in, get them approved. But I would ask that you deny and remand it back to us. So at minimum, we can get it secured to keep people from going in it, because they obviously haven't done so.
Thank you.
Well, I would like to just point out that there is one room on the back of the tower that's accessible, but you can't get past that one room. I can re-secure that entrance again and put the perimeter at the exterior of the building. And the other openings are just 3 garage doors, which I can get secured. That's no problem.
Well, Mr. Chairman, whether you grant them more time or do not, the responsibility to secure this building lies with the owner. So that's neither here nor there. Our expectation is that you have it secured, keep it secured, keep it graffiti free, and any debris that's laying around, that's around the yard, that is cleaned up. Or the city, that's the expectation.
And Mr. Chairman, Patricia McGinty Aston for the City of Cleveland Law Department. We would also ask, regardless of how you rule, that you uphold all of the 4 notices for buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4, as the documents, photographs, and evidence and testimony indicates. They've properly been condemned. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other persons that wish to speak on this docket at this time? A motion is in order to deny the request for additional time and to remand the property at 2441 East 71st Street to the Division of Building and Housing for supervision and required further action, noting that the violation notices were properly issued and that there has been general agreement that the city and the appellant will work together at a mutually agreeable process. Motion so in order.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Maskey, second by Mr. Bradley. Ms. Davis, call the roll.
Maskey,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Dink,
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Thank you. Next docket, A 38519 9021 Bessemer Avenue.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is condemnation of the main structure. Issued December 3rd, 2019. Appeal statement received December 30th, 2019, requesting for 6 months to abate the violations. Present for the hearing. Do we have the owner?
Yes, Ernest Fisco, Fisco. I'm president of Hal Marney, Inc.
Do you have anyone else with you today, sir?
No.
Tom Vanover, Building and Housing.
Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I do.
Mr. Cisco, your structure is condemned. Would you proceed with your?
Hal Marney Inc. has owned Hal Marney Inc. has owned this building for 20 years now. It's strictly been used for storage. We only have electricity for the building. There's no water or gas because we don't need it. It's used to store vehicles. There is a problem with it, and there's been problems with dumping debris on the east side of the property. I've gone through 3 contractors within the last 3 months.
You're getting some interference with, is there somebody else speaking behind you or?
No, no. Is
Okay,
that any better?
do the best you can. Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, he went in and out. Patricia McGinty Aston again for the city of Cleveland. He said it's not being used, but then he said it's being used to store. Is that correct? And if he could expand on that, thank you, since it is condemned.
The tenant in the building stores vehicles there. They're historical vehicles. And so we have an issue with the roof, and I've obtained 3 contractors now over the last, 3 to 4 months. And finally, I think I have one that I can work with. I lost 2 deposits already. I made a deposit with this contractor, but he said he's easily 45 to 60 days out before he can start anything. Meantime, the lot to the east of the building continuously gets dirt and debris dumped on that site, which we do our best to maintain it. We try to remove it. And this Saturday, I've got another contractor coming in to remove the dirt. We keep the building up. It's pretty much non-discrete. There's very little activity with the building, and it's probably the best building in that block.
Mr. Chairman, again, Patricia McGinty Aston to the appellant. You mentioned the lot next to the, I think you said east. Do you also own that lot? And then, Mr. Chairman, it is a storage of something, so there is a use on a condemned building, which the condemnation says cannot have a use. Mr. Vanover, I'm sure, will handle that, and what is required for a commercial building to use to store historical vehicles. But to the appellant specifically, do you own the other lot that you were talking about?
Yes. That's part of the parcel.
Is that the end of the?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Maskey has his hand raised.
As to that was, but we recognize the next speaker.
No. Mr. Maskey had his hands raised.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Maskey.
Mr. Chairman, to the appellant, have permits been pulled on this project?
Yes, sir.
And so where are you in the process with the permitting?
I don't understand the question. We have the permits, and I'm assuming the permit would allow us to repair the roof, which is, that's the biggest problem we have.
Well, the permits allow so much time, and if you're inactive on your time, then the permits are going to disappear. Mr. Vanover can certainly clarify that process. But I'm just, you only have so much time, and if you're not working within the permits, they go away.
And maybe we want to hear from Mr. Vanover now to see what the implications of that are. Mr. Vanover?
So, Mr. Chairman, to the appellate, you can see, if you scroll through, you'll see our photo. I'm having trouble, I apologize.
Mr. Vanover, a comment. Your microphone is very directional, so you have to talk right into it, because we can tell when you turn your head.
Okay, is this better?
Yes.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm having trouble pulling up the permits on this, and I apologize. So, Mr. Chairman, to the appellate, what permits do you currently have on this project?
I don't know that I have the permit in front of me. I have the receipt for the permit. I'm not sure if it was ever sent to me.
Okay, so, but do you believe that that's a permit to re-roof the structure, or?
What I'm looking at is general permit, building standards, building appeals. That's the payment receipt.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, I believe this is I believe what you're looking at is your receipt for this hearing.
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Davis has her hand raised.
Ms. Davis.
I have a copy of the permit that the appellant did email me late yesterday. It is for the purpose, come from, it did not come from me.
So you're saying it is a permit for the premises? May we hear
It's a
from
permit for something, but it didn't come from me. It was a fee for $130.
That doesn't sound like a permit.
No.
Mr. Vanover, may we hear, if he was to store cars in there, what would he need to do to the building as you understand how the building is now?
So, Mr. Chairman, there was an application.
We can't hear you, sir.
An application would need to be made to correct the condemnation notice. So providing, this building was originally a manufacturing use, so it would be a change of use to an enclosed parking garage. And that requires, even though they don't need certain facilities, the code would require it. You would need a design professional to go through. There's structural problems with the roof. It's not just re-roofing. Years of the open roof has caused, our photos show deterioration of the structural member. So there would need to be a full assessment. There's also electrical components and gas components and plumbing components that are abandoned. Those would need to be either repaired or removed. And and a use established, having these cars in here full of gasoline in what appears to be a type 3 building with brick walls and a wood roof. That was not the original intent of the building when it was constructed. And, the fuel loads of these automobiles and all of that there would have to be a full assessment of that to change the use. But primarily the structural aspects and the mechanical aspects of the building would need to be made code compliant. It's more than just putting a roof on it. You can see there's structural, this photo itself shows you that we're looking at, it shows that the decking has rotted. Some of the members are deteriorated. So an assessment of that would need to be done to make the repairs. I think the building's close. It's definitely condemnable, but it's not to the same level of deterioration that we've seen. The appellant would need to engage a design professional to walk the building and make a determination of what needs fixed and what's good.
This sounds like they have to work with the city to do this, just as on the last docket. A motion is, does the appellant have any further, comments?
No, sir.
The appellant.
Mr. Cisco,
Yes.
you have comments?
No, I do not, and I understand what Mr. Vanover's saying. So if I could get some time to get somebody in there to evaluate the building. The pictures are showing a skylight that's, we have plans for all that, and we have plans to repair the roof, and those are the two main items that we have a problem with. If it's a matter of restoring the utilities, to make it, we don't need to use it as a car storage place. It's been a cold storage building. It's only been cars in there for the last maybe 3 years. Before that, it was just material.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we don't object to a reasonable amount of time, with the understanding that whatever you decide to store in there, you will need a change of use to identify that, but we don't object to more time for that purpose. A reasonable amount of time.
Okay.
By the
way, I can remove the cars immediately. It's not
a motion is ordered to find that the violation notice was properly issued, and the request for additional time, it is refused, and the property is remanded to the Division of Building and Housing for discussion, supervision, and any required further action. Motion so in order.
So move.
Motion, Mr. Bradley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Gallagher. Call the roll, please. Oh. This is easy. Ms. Davis, call the roll, please.
Maskey,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Dink,
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Thank you. Next docket, A 6520, 1809 East 107th Street.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of this is an adjudication order
Close the windows.
issued March 16, 2020. Appeal statement received, I think around the same time. Present for hearing.
I like it.
We have Abigail Jasper.
Hello, this is Abigail Jasper. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
We swear you in
Excellent.
first. Solemnly swear
Of
or
course.
affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Preliminarily, Mr. Chairman, the WebEx is showing docket A 419, but you called docket A 6520. And Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to be presumptuous, but it is Dank and Associates, I don't know if you had any hand in this or if there's any recusal, but and I presume Mr. Vanover is handling this for the city. Thank you.
I have no knowledge of that. Let's let Mr. Vanover handle it. Solemnly swear or affirm the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God. You
I
do.
do.
Okay. Proceed.
Ms.
May
Jasper?
we hear from the appellant?
Yes, my name is Abigail Jasper. It's spelled Abigail Jas, P as in Peter, ER. Also present are Julie Anderson, Vice President of Judson Manor. Her name is spelled JulieAnderson. And William Bill Fehrenbach, spelled Bill, capital FEHRENBACH, and Bill is the Vice President of Project Management for Judson. We are requesting an exception to the Electrical Code 406.12 regarding the mandatory use of tamper-proof outlets. The building is a senior residential facility. There will be no future change in ownership that would include young residents, as the building is reserved for elderly. As elderly individuals may have difficulty with day-to-day uses in things such as tamper-proof outlets, we are requesting that standard outlets be installed in the independent living residential portion of the 10th floor. This would exclude 2 guest suites that are on that floor. And at the recommendation of the master plans examiners, we are also requesting that this be granted for future independent living renovations on floors in the building.
What is the reason for the request?
The request is that a tamper-proof outlet can be quite difficult for elderly to insert and remove a plug for a computer or a light, a lamp, anything of that nature, a toaster oven. It's something that the strength required to insert the outlet or insert the plug and then remove can be greater than many elderly have the physical strength to do. I would also like to note that we requested this variance on the 9th floor, which was granted by resolution after a May 29th, 2019 appeal, and that resolution was included in our submission to request this appeal as well. So relief was granted for the 9th floor independent living. And I believe in that in-person meeting, I believe Mr. Dank actually had an example of the outlet that we are requesting the variance for. just in the difficulty to use it.
Ms. Davis, do we have a copy of that information, or this? I can obviously obtain one, but
Mr. Chairman, Patricia McGinty Aston for the City of Cleveland. Ms. Jasper, were you present at that last hearing? Where there, I recall that.
Wait, we lost you.
Yes, I was present for that meeting. My colleague Anthony Heaty was the primary speaker, but I was present along with Julie Anderson.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I recall that somebody had brought in a sample plug to show the difference. And Ms. Jasper, was that submitted to the board to keep? Do you recall? Did they keep that in evidence?
I do not recall if it was kept in evidence.
Yeah, I don't either. Mr. Chairman, Tom, were you there as well, Mr. Vanover? Do you recall that?
I don't remember being there. I am going to object though, because this board doesn't set precedent, and each case is heard on its own merit and its own circumstances.
Right, I agree, Tom. I was actually just going to say the board does actually not create precedent, but my mentioning the prior hearing is to see whether or not that was kept in evidence so that the board could take another look at it if they wanted to, because I recall when she mentioned the other floor, I recall that hearing.
Actually, Mr. Dink brought in the receptacle to demonstrate how difficult it was.
Okay, so it came from Mr. Dank, Ms. Davis. I thought it was from the appellant. Thank you.
Okay, we a motion is there to.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes, Mr. Vanover.
So the statement was made, several things that were asked for before you make your motion.
Wait, you're away from.
There's several things that were asked for. So before you make your motion, I want to make sure that we are clear on what it actually is that we're talking about. The statement was made that no future will change the use of these floors. How is that documented? How is that?
We're not hearing you.
How's that? I'm sorry. Better?
Yes.
Okay. So the statement was made that no future.
You went away.
We can't hear you again.
Mr. Vanover, you have to be perfect to be good.
Okay, I'm trying. I apologize for that. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. The statement was made that no future ownership will change the use of this property from elderly residents. How is that going to be captured and documented?
May we hear from the appellant, please? Ms. Jasper?
Yes, it is my understanding that Judson Incorporated has had possession of the building for quite some time. And prior to that, it was also senior residential apartments, that the building has a long history of senior residences, and the investments that Judson is currently making in the property indicate continued long-term use of the property.
Mr. Chairman, Patricia McGinty Aston for the city. Mr. Chairman, to Mr. Vanover, is there a concern on behalf of the city, or does the code address the difference between elderly or other aged groups? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Aston, the concern of the city is that if this changes to family residency, you will have small children that will be affected by the lack of tamper-proof receptacles. I don't disagree with the challenges of using tamper-proof receptacles, and then more so for elderly persons. And as the building official, I think that this is a reasonable expectation or a reasonable request under the codes for a specific group of residents. And I just need to be sure that the building will maintain that specific group of residents that we're creating a variance for. So I will, we will look at the documents, and this may very well, based on the appeal, write it into the certificate of occupancy. The certificate of occupancy will reference the variance. So I would ask that the resolution include the requirement that the building be maintained as senior living, or the variance is then revoked if it does go to regular market rate housing. And that's the only way I know of to document this. Finally, I object to the request to add this variance to every floor renovation in the future. Each case and each project is reviewed on its own, under its own merit, and will be adjudicated accordingly. So we don't know what those, maybe we do. Ms. Jasper, are there plans to renovate all of the floors?
There are plans to renovate the 5th floor, which is currently independent living, and maintain it as independent senior living with a comparable renovation to what we're doing right now on 10 and previously did on 9.
And Mr. Chairman, Patricia McGinty Aston again with the city. I have to agree with Mr. Vanover on that. I don't believe the board has the authority to give advisory or preliminarily approval before the city chief building official reviews. And who knows what code changes may incur. So you can't give a variance to something that hasn't been applied for.
Other than that, Mr. Chairman,
Noted.
other than that, those items we do, I don't object to the request.
So the 5th floor is the only floor involved in the renovation right now. Is that right, Ms. Jasper?
The 10th floor is involved in the renovation, and we are requesting relief for the residential units, not the 2 guest suites on the 10th floor.
So the 10th floor is the only one involved at this time?
Presently, yes. When we were going through the review with the plans examiner, both Dick Thomas and Lester Cumberlander recommended, because we had gone through it on 9, we're currently going through it on 10, and we know that 5 will hopefully be coming in the near future. They suggested that we request that this relief be also applied to future floors. We understand.
Again, city, Patricia McGinty Aston for the city, under Westlake v. Foster, you take wrong advice from city personnel at your own peril. You can't do that.
I understand.
We will abide by the city's legal decision on this. A motion is urged to grant the variance to the receptacles on the 10th floor as requested. Motion so in order.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. Gallagher, second by Mr. Bradley. Call the roll, please.
Bashki,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Dink,
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Jasper, is this the only item in the adjudication order that's outstanding?
Yes.
So, Ms. Davis, I don't know how that gets done in the virtual meeting, but we would ask for an emergency resolution so that we can process the variance and approve the plans.
Just for an opinion, I think she can email something that's signed virtually by Mr. Dank that to both parties that it would eventually come through. As long as nobody objects, I think that's and I would defer to Mr. Mateka on behalf of the board's legal authority, but I don't think that would be improper given the situation.
Okay, then we'll request the secretary to send me the material and I will sign it virtually and forward it to the appellant. That ends that docket. Next item of business approval of resolutions.
No, Mr. Dink,
Yes.
you're looking at an old agenda. It was revised. We still have docket A 419.
Let me get it. I thought I was up to date.
Up on the screen now.
No, I don't. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Thank you. Next docket A 419, 15222 Macaulay Avenue.
Application and fees are in order. Notice of violation is exterior maintenance. Issued September 16, 2019. Appeal statement received October 16, 2019, requesting for 30 days to abate the violation. We have present for the hearing.
Looks like we have Ravi Chand, Madam,
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
Yes,
Okay,
I raised my hand.
That's the owner. And we also have, it's supposed to be someone here from Greater Collinwood Development.
Looks like Peggy Kersey.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
And we have Tom Vanover from Building and Housing.
You solemnly swear or affirm that the comments you're about to make are the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Mr. Chairman, preliminarily, this was set 2 weeks ago and was continued because the appellant had not contacted Ms. Davis and there was questions. It's actually an agent for the owner and the city requested verification that a letter of authority also be received from Mr. Ravi Chand for the actual owner trust. And I don't know whether that has happened. So, Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Davis, have you received a letter of authority to proceed on this matter?
I have received an email from the young man who claims he is the owner. The trust is in his mother's name, and he will give testimony on that. And 2 weeks ago, he had some technical difficulties in getting in, so that's the reason for the continuance today.
Okay, as long as you got something that connects it to the, I'll accept that as long as you've got something in writing that connects it to the trust, Mr. Chairman. So it appears you do have authority to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis.
Thank you.
Proceed. Oh, did I swear them in? Have they been sworn in?
Did.
Oh, yes, they have. Okay. May we hear from the appellant?
I assume that's me. And so the contractor has completed all the work back 2019. Could have been before that. I was traveling for out of the country all over. So the contractor completed the work. The inspector went out to inspect the work. Found some items. My contractor called the inspector to try to figure out exactly what was not complete. Left multiple messages, never heard back. And that was prior to COVID. And now, same thing is true. That my contractor texted me this morning and last night, said I've left 4 to 5 voicemails, have not heard back from the inspector. This time, I don't know what is not complete. Contractor tells me
your appeal is for 30 days to complete abatement of the violations. If you know do you know what the violations are?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I am an out-of-state owner, so I haven't seen the home. So I'm trusting my contractor when he says that the repairs are complete. He works with codes members from
okay.
different
Request still, can you complete abatement of the violations in 30 days?
Absolutely. We just need to hear back from the inspector.
30 days, August, September 1st. Motion is ordered to grant the appellant until September 1st.
Mr. Chairman, if you could hear from Mr. Vanover, the city, as well as the community representative present as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vanover. I'm sorry.
So, Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, the appellant's statement was that the violations have been corrected. The appellate's statement is that the violations have been corrected, with the exception of a few, and they're only waiting for the inspector to make contact to figure out what those last few are.
Is that a question or an answer?
That is the question. to verify my understanding of the situation.
Okay, that's what it sounded like. Thank you. May we hear from the appellant again?
So is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
Then I will follow up with Walter and make sure that she makes contact with your contractor and to finish the violations and to do a follow-up inspection.
Sounds great. Thank you for your help.
Okay. Then the motion is, we can proceed with the motion. Do we have any other comments?
The CDC rep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Board. We're not opposed to the extension of more time. This is something that we sent the appellant and the trust something a year even prior to it being cited with no contact to the CDC. So we would like to just get this finished. This is a very nice residential block. So if they could just finish it up, and if they have any questions, I apologize. I don't have photos that I can share right now with all of you, but I believe there is still a little work to be done based on my field staff. We would just like to get it done and get this concluded.
And Mr. Donna, are you aware of what she is just talking about?
I am unaware of what is incomplete at this time. Contractors tell me what's done. All we need to do is get my contractor and the inspector on the phone together. We will get it done easily within 30 days. Sooner if we can hear from the inspector sooner.
October 1st. Members, October 1st for the motions are to grant the appellant until October 1st, 2020 to complete abatement of the violations, including the violations noted by the city and agreed to be completed by the appellant. Motion so in order.
So move.
Motion, Mr. Bradley.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maschke. Call the roll, please.
Maschke,
Yes.
Bradley, Dink,
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
And that completes the resolutions. I'm sorry, that completes the dockets for today. Next item of business, approval of resolutions. The following A-19 resolutions, 297, 357, 365, 366, 367, 369, 370, 371, and A-375-19. Any additions or corrections?
No.
Hearing none, motion for approval as submitted.
So move.
Motion, Mr. Bradley.
Second.
Second, Mr. Gallagher. Call the roll, please.
Maschke,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Dink,
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Approval of minutes of June 24th, 2020. Any additions or corrections?
No.
Hearing none, approval as submitted.
So move. Second.
Motion by Mr. Gallagher, second by Mr. Bradley. Call the roll, please.
Maschke,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Dink,
Yes.
Gallagher.
Yes.
Any further official business? Hearing none, the meeting, ma'am? None?
None.
Okay. Motion for approval.
So move.
Yes. Meeting is adjourned.
Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.